So, very warm evening to everyone, and thank you for joining us here. We're streaming this webinar live from the ReachIvy offices here in Mumbai, and I have a very special guest today with us, Nikhil Lasrado from Prodigy Finance. Prodigy Finance is a pioneer in the study abroad loan financing space and is doing some remarkable stuff in the area. And Nikhil's here to tell us all about it. As you all know, ReachIvy is a premium careers and study abroad advisory firm, helping students reach top-tier schools across the globe in the United States, Singapore, Canada, Europe, etc. We're going to start with introducing Nikhil first. So, Nikhil, if you could just give us a little background on yourself and then tell us what Prodigy Finance does and a little briefing on Prodigy before we go into the meat of the conversation.
Sure. So firstly, welcome everybody to the webinar. Thank you for joining. Very good evening. Very glad to be back here at the ReachIvy office in Mumbai. Glad to be back with the team here. We have met a few times over last year at events at this office as well. So thanks for hosting us. A bit about myself. My current role, I'm the country manager for Prodigy Finance here in India. And my role is essentially a mix of business development as well as partnerships, which is how we work with ReachIvy. But a bit about my background before we get started. The reason that I did join Prodigy Finance is a lot to do with my own background. I have actually lived the student story, just like so many of you, on this webinar today. I was a consultant with IBM Canada at the time, and I was looking to, further my career, get into middle management. I was looking to an international MBA outside of Canada. And, I did study at IE Business School. I graduated in 2015. Went through the whole international student life and all the other challenges that come with it, including funding. And then, subsequently returned to India and I joined Prodigy Finance soon after. I've been here. This is my third year here at Prodigy Finance. So very happy to be here. It's our number one market by far. It's huge responsibility, comes with its share of challenges. But every day brings up something new. It's a very exciting space to be in, helping other students achieve their masters through loans, like I said, because I've lived the story myself, it just adds so much more value to my work on a daily basis.
Okay, terrific. And could you introduce Prodigy Finance briefly, just giving us an overview of what Prodigy does?
Sure, I can. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to just quickly share a quick overview slide of what the company is all about when I'm speaking. So, yeah, this is actually So this is actually our 11th year of operations. We've been around for a while, but going back to the way we started, it was all to do with our founder, who was incidentally from South Africa himself, from an emerging market, struggled to fund his own MBA at INSEAD, which should not have been the case. And he realized that, and he set out to change things right out of INSEAD. He didn't, apply for a job. He founded Prodigy Finance. And the early days were baby steps. It first started with INSEAD itself, and Cameron, our founder, got INSEAD alumni to invest in what they saw as future leaders, and they put forward their own money as angel investors. Subsequently, we brought other European schools on board, such as Glenwick and Cambridge and other UK schools. And in 2014, we made the big jump across the pond, and we started supporting schools in the US as well. And as of today, we support the Financial Times top 100 business schools for all master's programs. So this is not just MBA, it's also Masters in Finance, Masters in Management, and various other business programs housed under business schools, FT top 100 business schools. Okay. So at a high level, yes, that's a history of Prodigy Finance.
Okay, thank you for sharing. So it seems like you're focused on funding masters and MBA students. Now, a lot of the MBA students who've applied to school in their round one deadlines have already been granted admits, so they're definitely very eager to hear from you. And some of our round two applicants will be hearing back very soon. So at this stage, when students are pondering over the financing decision, what general advice would you give students as they think about acquiring funds to finance their study abroad plans?
Sure. So I would say you got to look at it at a step-by-step approach. Like first and foremost, and this applies across the board. Look at your own source of funding. Look at your own savings. My assumption is most of the people on this webinar today are working professionals, so you would have accumulated some kind of savings over the years. Look at that. Look at how much of that you're willing to reinvest into your own education versus the opportunity cost of where else can you invest that. Are you like great at the stock market and making a killing there? Don't touch it. Those kind of decisions. Look at your own funds, look at your own savings, look at investments and whether you want to liquidate them. But firstly, look at your own, source of funds, your own savings. The next step would be, and I'm sure all of you have already been through this process, and if you haven't, this is a great time to start. Look at applying for scholarships, as many as you can, and not just at the school you're applying to, but look at your nationality. If you're from India, right, or a certain geography, or if you have a certain background, if you come from a certain segment, like maybe women in tech, and those kind of scholarships. There are a lot of niche scholarships out there from various institutions besides just the schools themselves. So go all out, look at all your options, and apply. Nothing like free money, of course, you still have to earn it. Sponsorships is another thing I would definitely recommend, right? So again, working professionals, yes, you got to look at what that means for you. If you can convince your company to sponsor your master's field, that's great. You probably have to sign a bond to come back and work for them for a while. And maybe if you bail on that, maybe there's a penalty. You got to look at all that, but please do try and at least explore that option. It does work for a lot of people. And once you're done with all these options, right, you look at what is the delta, what you're still left with. Like, have you managed to fund your total cost of attendance? Fairly unlikely. And that's when you start looking at external source of funding, which is essentially loans. And even then, perhaps you can try and look at a soft loan, try and approach a family member or a friend and say like, hey, can I just borrow a certain amount of money and maybe I just pay you back because friends or family. At a later stage, soft loans essentially interest-free, right? And once you've exhausted all these options, yes, you will have to look externally. You will have to start looking at the various options of education loans that you have, and of course, Prodigy Finance is just one of them. But I would say you would follow this order. We're a responsible lender, and it's important not to overburden anyone with debt. So, the advice is consistent. Always first look at your own source of funds, look at scholarships, sponsorships, soft loans if you can get access from friends and family, and then look at education loans from traditional lenders.
Okay, that's very good advice. So I'm happy you're not propagating loans as the first and foremost option. In fact, you're telling students to first evaluate what they've managed to save, look at all other resources for funding, and then look at the loan to sort of bridge the gap between what they have and what they need. Okay, that's very valuable advice. So for a lot of students, even though they're pre-MBA, the loan terms are still slightly ambiguous. So if you could just spend a minute or two just explaining what are some of the key terms that students should be aware of when they're evaluating loans. What are some of the common sort of loan terms associated with the whole business?
Sure. So loan terminology, I mean, surprisingly, is still very alien to a lot of people. You may be working in finance right now. You may have taken a lot of courses already. But when it comes to actually reading through all those T's and C's and 6-page documents and all this jargon that you come across very often for the first time in your life, it can be very overwhelming. And let's face it, this is the second biggest financial decision of your life. The next one's probably going to be a home loan, right? So it is a big decision. It's important to know what you're signing up for. So I would say there's a lot of jargon, a lot of terminology, but the top 3 things to keep in mind for any education loan, and probably take it in that order. First and foremost is the loan size, right? How much of your cost of attendance are you actually able to cover from this loan that you're undertaking, right? So you got to look at whether the lender is willing to offer you the full cost of attendance, or is there a certain proportion that they expect you to put forward. In the context, that is termed as margin money, which is to say that, great, I mean, this is your 100% cost of attendance. We can lend you 90%, and the remainder of the 10% is to come from your own sources. And we first need to see that you have the 10% before we can lend you the remainder of the 90%, right? So that's another factor about how some lenders might break up cost of attendance. So that's something you need to look at, like how much of your cost of attendance is being covered, and not just from a loan. How much can you cover from your own? And this goes back to my advice from earlier, from your own savings, from sponsorships, scholarships, so on and so forth. So once you have your loan size covered, and obviously in the very least you need to cover your cost of attendance, which is the sum of tuition and living. for your entire duration of studies, which could be 2 years. The second important, just important term for any loan is the loan duration. Now, this becomes important, especially when you start considering how expensive an MBA can be today. I mean, a Stanford MBA is $250,000 cost of attendance, right? So that's a lot of money. That's like buying a small house anywhere in the US. So when you kind of look at that, and then you see how many years do you have to repay a loan like this, you probably do not want to be doing this over a period of 7 to 10 years. You're probably overburdening yourself from an EMI perspective. And so these kind of situations, let's take one example, you need to look at the loan size and then see like, what period am I comfortable at repaying over? Hopefully you should have some flexibility in deciding that, right? Like, I'd rather take a 15-year than a 10-year loan, those kind of decisions. While looking at repayment, also look at what are your options of making an early repayment or a prepayment, right? So there are certain lenders out there that might tend to restrict early repayments, or they might penalize you for making a prepayment, or they might restrict the frequency of repayments that you can make, right? So these are the kind of things to look at, read the fine print. Ideally, you should be empowered and it should be completely flexible. You should be able to close out your loan early or prepay or make higher than required EMI repayments at any point of time without any penalty. But so this is something important to look at, repayments. Typically, of course, your repayments will start with the grace period of 6 months after your classes end. And the third, I would say the third factor to look at, the term, which is most important, is actually your interest rate, right? And never look at just the interest rate, right? Because this could be highly misleading. Every lender, including Prodigy Finance that I represent, does have additional costs associated with lending. It's impossible to run a for-profit lending organization without having any additional costs besides just the interest rate. So some of the additional costs typically associated with a loan could be the loan sanction letter fee. Sometimes it's 1% of your loan amount. It could be, insurance against your loan, right? Sometimes it's optional, but there's a cost you have to incur the cost of taking insurance against your loan. Then if you're taking a loan, let's say in INR to go study in the US, every time the disbursement happens and INR gets converted to USD, there's a foreign exchange conversion fee, which is invariably passed on to you. So that's again a cost you would incur. So you would have to look at all these, then there's the administration fee again, which many lenders have. So you could look at one or more of these additional fees. You have to then factor that into the annualized impact on this as you as a borrower, which is actually called the annual percentage rate. Now, this is something that the international lenders such as Prodigy Finance do disclose. In the Indian context, it's not mandatory. The RBI hasn't made it mandatory, but you are empowered as a borrower to ask the lender to tell you what the APR on your loan is. And then it's as simple as just comparing APR with APR, apples with apples. Any financial advisor will tell you to go with the lowest APR that you get from a lender. So I think at a high level, these are the most important terms to consider in order to make the right decision on which loan, which lender you want to go with.
Great. So Nikhil, appreciate the transparency and really happy you've been able to dissect the different costs associated with the loan. It's not as simple as just figuring out the interest rate. There's lots of hidden costs, and you've been generous by sharing all the different layers. So you first established the fact that how much money do I actually need, and after I figured out how much money I need, then I can have to assess my APR, and then do a sort of apples-to-apple comparison between the various options available to me. What are the different options available to me? So Prodigy has a very interesting model that there are other forms of lending available in the market. So if you could just give us a broad overview of, for a student, what are the different options available in the market and how do they compare and contrast with one another?
Sure, fair enough. So again, I'm just generalizing here, but I'd say there's 3 categories of lenders that you would have access to as an Indian citizen in India. So first, typically I just go in order, is the public sector banks, right, or the PSU banks. Not going to take names, you all know who they are. But they have a fairly standardized generic model. It is fairly regulated, highly regulated industry by the RBI. And there are certain mandates that they have to follow. So one of the things, like going back to what I said earlier, the cost of attendance. So no matter what your loan size is, you can't go above 90% of cost of attendance. The minimum margin money or money that you would have to put forward would be 10% of your own before you get the remainder of 90% from them. So just keep that in mind from a loan size perspective. The other is interest rates. So this again very regulated by the RBI. And just like any other interest rate that would be offered to you for an education loan, it's a combination of fixed and variable rates, right? So the variable rate currently is the MCLR, which is from the Reserve Bank of India, which is currently at 8.5%. And then, to that would be add the fixed margin or the spread, as it's called by PSU banks. Currently, that's around 2.3%. So you're talking about a loan, an interest rate of about 10.8%. And remember, this is variable. It's subject to change every time the RBI changes the MCLR. That's done at fairly random frequency, but then, of course, it's publicized, and you know that every time that happens, it does impact the interest rate on your loan. Remember, your loans over a period of 10 or 15
so even
years.
if you've taken a loan today and locked in that rate, the next time the rate changes, it
exactly. Yes. So your interest, I mean, you have an variable interest rate on your loan. So just keep that in mind and try and look at how the MCLR is changing, because that impacts your loan rate if you're going with a public sector bank. The third one is repayment period. Typically, public sector banks can go up to 15 years, which is fairly generous, and they don't have repayment penalties. So that's something interesting to keep in mind. The next segment that you would have access to, would be the NBFCs, non-banking financial corporations. Again, I'm not going to take names, but you know who they are. But getting into the way they structure their loans. So the good news here is you can actually get 100% of cost of attendance, right? So no matter how high your loan size is, you can get access to it. But remember, just like a public sector bank, even at an NBFC, you do need a co-signer. Now, a co-signer is for these loans, and there's no exception. You need a co-signer. Is usually one or both of your parents, right? Now, remember the impact of a co-sign on a loan is that if one or both of your parents co-signs the loan, and one of them has to, or both, it impacts their credit score. It impacts their ability to borrow further, because their total debt burden, as it's called, would get reduced by the fact that they have co-signed your loan, and they're equally liable to repay that loan. And therefore, if they were tomorrow to go and try and apply for a personal loan, an automobile loan, or home loan, their ability to borrow would be reduced by the amount that they have co-signed on your loan. So keep that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind, again, this is common with PSU banks and to some extent with NBFCs as well, above a certain sum, typically of 35 lakhs or $15,000 equivalent, you require collateral as well. Usually that would be property. Invariably, it's your parents' property. And it's usually about 3/4 to 1.5 times the size of the loan, right, as a minimum. Now, again, keep in mind that what this implies is that your parents' property, when there's a co-signer involved, whoever it is, their property is being hypothecated to the financial institution for the entire period of repayment of your loan. So tomorrow, if they wish to sell that property or take a loan against it, they cannot. So remember what this means for other people kind of involved in your financial decision, whether they're co-signers or providing collateral. So going on, continuing with the NBFCs, when it comes to interest rates, now they're not governed by the RBI, which means they're free to set their own interest rates. This is slightly nebulous. You'll have to check their website to see what their interest rate is offered. There is some flexibility on it. At the same time, they're free to change it at any point of time because they're not governed by the NCLR. So keep that in mind. This is again variable interest rates, and they will most certainly will change over the period of 10 or 15 years of repayment that you have. Typically, the repayment at NBFCs caps out at 12 years. It's usually 10 years. They sometimes extend to 12 years. Keep that in mind as well. If it's very high value loan, expect like a lot, like over a crore or like 200K plus, you may want a longer repayment period. So keep that in mind again with NBFCs. Now, the third category is international lenders, and Prodigy Finance is one of them to explore all your options, like I keep saying. But I can speak a little bit, in a general format about how international loans work, especially for Indian borrowers, right? So all these loans would be both without collateral and cosigner. And I know that sounds too good to be true, but the catch here is that there's no one-size-fits-all model. Interest rates are customized to the borrower, your own financial profile, as well as the school that you're applying to. And again, not all schools are supported. So for instance, Prodigy Finance supports only the FT top 100 schools for business, master's programs in business. So those are some of the qualification criteria restrictions. But the good news is that all these loans are without collateral or cosigner. Secondly, because these are foreign currency loans, they would of course have a fixed component. The variable component would not be the MCLR. It would be the LIBOR or the variable equivalent of the currency that you're borrowing in or your loan is in. So for the US, it's the USD LIBOR. For the UK, British pound loans, it's GBP LIBOR, and for the Eurozone, it's the Euribor. So keep that in mind as well.
For a student who's going to go study in the UK, I can take my loan in British pounds.
That's right.
As opposed to if I went to a PSU here in India or an NBFC here in India, I obviously have to take an INR denomination.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So again, one of the things that means is every time there's a disbursement, if you're taking international currency loan, you're not incurring any foreign currency conversion charges. What you see is what you get and what you borrow. Okay. So yeah, that is again something to keep in mind.
So there's some hedge in terms of like borrowing. You're borrowing the forex risk is in that sense averted.
Sure.
When you sort of pay back your loans, also you got to pay back in the foreign currency.
That's right.
Okay. So hypothetically, if you get a job in that foreign currency, you will earn in that currency and you will repay back.
That's right.
In the same currency, therefore averting forex risk.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.